My name is Sean Campbell. I'm the Product Development Manager with Canteris, and my 2 minutes today is about perseverance. The concept of soldier on, it's a phrase that we often hear throughout, Western civilization in many cases. My personal experience with the idea of soldiering on was in the Army, in my basic training. And I found it interesting years later looking back at what I learned about perseverance and how I learned about perseverance in my basic training. So I'm going to use a couple of stories that really highlight the two moments during my training that taught me perseverance. The first is probably the one that I would like to think of as the best, because it was our first garrison training. We were in garrison, bunking and everything else, and somebody screwed something up, so all of us had to run laps and all of us had to do push-ups and everything. And at the end of that, when we were exhausted, the sergeant turned to us and said, now here are the physical training requirements you must pass within 6 weeks to finish your basic training. I took one look at that. I said, I'm about 10 pounds overweight and there's no way I can do that. So I went to the sergeant, I sat down with him and I said, I don't think I can do this. He said, that's fine, but he said, consider this one thing. He said, I don't think you can do this. He said, I don't think you can do it. In fact, he said, I think you're going to walk out this door and you're going to be a failure for the rest of your life. I said, no, wait a second. I said, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to walk out this door and be a failure. I said, no, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to be able to do this. But what followed is probably more important. A week or two later, it was the dead of winter, PEI, so it's not as cold, but there's a whole lot more snow. And what we had to do is we had to crawl up a hill. This hill was probably, 5 or 6 meters high, but it was slick with ice because of some freezing rain the night before. And so our entire unit, basic training unit, had to crawl up this hill over the ice. And we kept trying and trying, and all of us had to get to the top before any of us were allowed in. And what really set the idea of perseverance in my head was the fact that halfway up that hill, I stopped. I stopped, and I let myself slide down that hill, and I said, I can't do this. After that, after going back home and thinking about it, I realized that the promise I had made to myself the day I walked out that office was a promise I had failed to deliver on the day on that hill. And so those two things have sat with me for the rest of my life, and through that I feel that I've been able to have both a positive and a negative experience in my life reinforce the idea of perseverance. Every time things get tough, I look at myself and I say, am I that man who's going to give up? And did I like how I felt when I gave up? And I always know the answer, and that will always get me through. So I guess my point in all of this is that perseverance really comes down to what you want to be and what you don't want to feel. Thank you.